Well, a very warm welcome to our Kaushalya UK Women Empowerment event for February. I feel honoured to have the speakers that we have with us this evening. And as I mention your name, give us a wave. So we have, working on the order on my screen, Dr.Madlena Kantscheff joining us from Germany. We have Lana Walsh joining us from Canada. Is it Alberta? Yes, Alberta in Canada. And we have Ruth Coghill also joining us from Canada, northeast of Toronto. Welcome. We are in for a treat. So I'd just like to say a little bit about Kaushalya UK, which is a not-for-profit organisation. It was born can I say love child Ritu? And I say that because Ritu, who is with us at the moment, but can't be on camera as she's in pain, but joins us nevertheless. Ritu is a Women Empowerment Ambassador. She is also a published author, a great friend, an entrepreneur, and an actor. And the organization was birthed to empower and uplift. Here's Alexi now. Yay. To empower and uplift women. It has grown organically. And Ritu Sharma has dedicated her life to bringing women of this world to find their own power and truth. The aim of the organization is to empower women, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women, and also not just to support those who are in dire need, but also to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional, and financial growth. Projects include personal and professional growth, health and well-being, financial education and entrepreneurship, as well as social events. Kaushalya UK has a social media presence and a WhatsApp group, a Facebook page, and of course the website where all the recordings of these events are posted. Now, I would normally hand over at this point to Ritu, but I will continue. So Ritu, we are wishing you well and that you recover quickly. And if I can just say the name Kaushalya, a lot of people ask, what does it stand for? It's actually the name of Ritu's paternal grandmother. So a little bit of background. Now, so here we go. Without further ado, it gives me greatest of pleasure to just introduce our first speaker for the evening, Dr.Madlena Kantscheff, who was born, grew up, and completed her education as a dentist in Bulgaria, a small country in Southeast Europe. Very early in her childhood, she realized that the only chance to be self-sufficient and not dependent on anyone is to be educated. She obtained her doctor's title at the age of 23. At the age of 30, she found herself opening a dental practice in a foreign country, Germany. From 1991 until 2011, Dr. Madlena served from her heart 7,000 patients as the only dentist at the practice. For many years, she was running after the earthly success, disconnecting from her soul. As a result, in 1988, she had to face cancer of the uterus. Dealing with cancer brought her to her knees, asking God for healing. Her prayer was answered, and she got miraculously healed from cancer. And it's at this juncture, Madlena, I hand over to you.
Thank you. This is such an honor and privilege to be here and add my humble contribution to the beautiful mission of this beautiful organization. So what do you want me to talk about?
Your story. You. Tell us the you.
Well, you ended up with how I had to face a severe challenge, which is, of course, a life-threatening disease. And I want to start with that. We as women, we are very ambitious. We want to achieve success. We want to be independent. I, for example, was raised with this idea that a woman has to walk 3 steps behind a man. I was a small girl, as my mother and my grandmother, side told me, you should walk 3 steps behind a man. And the reasons are because a man always provides financially for a woman. And the other one is even more ridiculous, the reason why a woman should walk 3 steps behind a man, because a man is physically stronger usually as a woman, and if he wants to, he can hurt her physically. And I distinctly remember as a small child, female child at the age of 5 or 6, as I heard this, every fiber of my being was screaming out, no, that's not going to happen to me. I am in a position to be independent, and I will never walk 3 steps behind a man. And I fulfilled this promise to myself. And what's even more important is any female member of our family, closest and extended family, is going to walk 3 steps behind a man, unless she feels like there is a reason to do that, but not because she's forced to. So as I moved to Germany, I continued being very ambitious, and I ran after this earthly success to prove to myself and to the world what I'm capable of doing. And in this process of achieving this earthly success, I disconnected from my soul. I was doing excessively, but I did not give myself the permission to be. And when we get to a point where we long-term disconnect from our true nature, from our souls, we have a very good saying here. I think, Mylene, you're in Germany, right? We have a very good saying here in Germany: if you don't want to listen, you have to feel. And as my soul was communicating with me again and again, inviting me to listen, I refused to listen. Then I had to feel the pain of a diagnosis, which can be life-threatening, right? So in 1998, I had to face this diagnosis, cancer of the uterus. And just like in the beautiful introduction, Carol said that I tried everything, especially as a medical professional, alternative methods, and I went through 1 surgery of the uterus and so on. And before the second surgery, the evening before the second surgery, I found myself on my knees, physically and emotionally naked. And I distinctly remember whispering with my last power I had in myself, physically and emotionally. I said, if there is God, please heal me. I want to be around when my children grow up. And interestingly enough, so many years after that, it's still emotional. As I whispered these words, the answer came instantly. And I want to say on a side note that I was born and grew up in an atheistic country. It was forbidden by law to walk into a church. So neither as a part of organized religion, nor independently outside of organized religion, I had the opportunity to build connection to higher power, God, universe, however you want to call it. So this prayer came directly from my soul. And instantly, really instantly, the answer came, my daughter, my beloved daughter, Well, exactly the words. Go back to bed, you're healed. And I was thinking back then that I was dreaming, but I was comforted. So the surgery took place on Monday, the upcoming day. And the same week on Friday, the surgeon who performed the surgery, who did a great job, came to me and he said, we shouldn't have done this surgery. And I think, what do you mean by not having to done the surgery? Well, we removed the uterus, my uterus, of course, and 40 lymph nodes beside the uterus, to the right and to the left side. We cut in all possible slices everything what we have removed out of your body, and we did not find even one cancer cell. And in this moment, I knew God has kept his promise to heal me. And this was also an invitation for me to consider building a relationship, as I said, with God, higher power, outside of religion, outside of church, personal relationship to higher power, to God, which carried me further from my life, and which is now also the core of my work. When I work with clients, then the core of my work is a prayer. We talk about the challenge of a client, and we end up always with a prayer to the divine to resolve the challenge, to guide this person. And I've been blessed to witness countless miracles happening as a result of an answered prayer to the divine. So this is my life story in short version.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. But you do have extra time if you want to say anything else. What you do now.
I served from my heart, as you said, for almost 20 years until 2011, gladly from my heart, my patients as a dentist. And yet I always felt like something was missing. As a dentist, I could not serve my patients from a holistic perspective. I was always limited.
Yeah.
In 2011, I took a leap of faith, sold my dental practice, and followed my heart. I went on a quest. What do I really want to do? And this gave me the opportunity to start serving people from a holistic perspective, where body, mind, and spirit are connected, are one. And during Corona time, I was guided by my heart, which is, of course, the divine part in every single one of us, to focus my attention exclusively to men or at men, because men desire and certainly deserve this special attention, because men at any age, they have this challenge to have realized that the way they have been taught that life is lived and business is done for the last centuries is no more working. And they feel like lost. I call them lost boys, because they don't have role models who show them how life is lived, especially as a masculine, positive man, and how business is done. And this idea that a man, in order to be successful in his business / career, he has to sacrifice his private life and his health, I oppose it completely. I state that a man can have it all at the same time. Vibrant health at any age, happy, fulfilling private relationships, and meaningful success. And this is what gets me out of bed every single morning, serving men to get to this point of living this balanced, lives.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yes. Thank you. Oh, love hearing your story, Dr. Madlena. Oh, and by the way, to our audience, I will just say that I am saving all the Q&A till all the speakers have spoken, then I'll open up the floor. So you can ask your questions or put them in the chat, and I will try and keep an eye on that. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker, Alexi Bracey. A bit about Alexi. 25 years ago, cancer saved Alexi's life. Alexi learned that with a powerful mindset and action plan, you can be victorious in reversing your health challenge, as she did with her cancer, without any medical intervention, drugs, or surgery a year later. With the resources and education she has accumulated over the years, including as a multi-author and #1 bestseller, she has coached, consulted, and mentored many on their way to optimum health. If you think you can, you are right. If you think you cannot, you are also right. So, Alexi, looking forward to hearing from you. Let me just spotlight you. Wonderful. The floor is yours, Alexi. Oh, are you on mute?
Oh, no.
No, you're fine. You're off mute now.
Okay, all right, okay. So thank you so much for this great opportunity to hopefully share, inspire, and make people aware that they are totally responsible for their health. So just to sort of go back a minute, everybody remembers a memorable date when you got married, when your first baby was born, and also dates that aren't so memorable. For example, when somebody died. So my memorable date is the first Monday after the turn of the century, Monday morning, January the 3rd, the year 2000. The phone rang at 10 after 9. The voice at the other end said, "You have cancer. We want to book you for your surgery." Dead silence. I just quietly said, "Thank you," and I hung up. And I knew at that instant I was going to beat it. I had no idea how. And so I proceeded to spend the next 3 months at bookstores and libraries because the availability of the internet was not as it is today. And what I learned totally changed my life. I had no idea how diet plays into your health or toxins or mindset. And so it really shifted my thinking, and I focused on those 3 things. Primarily toxins. We have toxins mentally, emotionally, and physically. Did you know that a newborn umbilical cord today contains almost 300 toxins? So baby's just born and he's got 300 toxins in his body already. Where did he get it? His mother. The #1 cause of death for children under 16, #1 is leukemia, #2 is brain cancer. It is also predicted that by 2040, 1 in 2 individuals will be diagnosed with cancer. So if there's 7 of us in here, that'll be 3 to 4 of us. And I'm not going to get it again. And the speaker before me, I'm sure she's not going to get it again. So it's not just mindset, it's taking proactive, being active in what you do. For example, Oprah, Michael J. Fox, Serena Williams, Michael Phelps, Walt Disney, Helen Keller, they all overcame significant, if not mental challenges, health challenges, with a positive mindset, and they took action. So mindset isn't enough. You have to take action. So I focused on mindset, but it was already innately there. I knew I was going to beat it. I just didn't know how. Then I focused on toxicity. I had no idea about how many toxins we have in our cleaning products and our toiletries, in the particle boards in our computers, the water we drink. I had no idea. So my focus is getting to the root cause. So I use the functional medicine model. So toxins that are responsible for diseases, cancer being one of them, could be mold, parasites, unresolved emotional issues, water, Wi-Fi, poor sleep, lack of exercise, not enough supplements, heavy metals, and the list goes on and on. A very important study was done more than 30 years ago by Kaiser Permanente, a well-respected health research company. They took 10 questions and they distributed it to 30 college grads. Traumas you experienced between the ages of 3 and 18. Traumas such as verbal, sexual, emotional, physical abuse from a parent, from a caregiver. Your father kicked you out. He was a drunk. He beat up your mother. If you score 2 or more yeses out of a possible 10, you have an 80% chance of developing either cancer or arteriosclerosis or heart disease. And the more yeses you have, the more chances for different diseases, and the numbers go up accordingly. So these negative emotional traumas reside in our cells. So we do have to get rid of them because they are holding us back. I mean, you know, like Oprah, for example, was sexually abused as a child. She did work to remove that trauma from her psyche, I guess you could say. So I have a really easy process where I help people remove that without really vocalizing it so they can go ahead. So I've posted in the chat, please do the ACE test. It's called Accelerated Childhood Experiences, ACE. It's free, just to see where you stand in terms of traumas you experienced between those formative years. Also, I have posted a link where you can book an emotional clearing session if you so desire. And I'll talk about the third one in just a minute. So how do you get rid of these toxins? There's a great website called EWG.org, which stands for Environmental Working Group, that you can look up, and they have an extensive site where you can determine the foods that are healthiest, the least sprayed. So every year they come up with a list called the Healthy 15 or the Dirty Dozen. They have a list of foods that contain toxins, your toiletries, your cleaning products, your snacks. It's a really great resource. So really try to strive to eat organic because these toxins really impact your health. For example, the number one toxin that is responsible for cancer, among other things, is glyphosates. And glyphosates is the active ingredient found in Monsanto's Roundup. And it has been proven and shown to be a carcinogen. Another thing I would really stress is to get adequate sleep in a completely dark bedroom. You don't go to bed with your computer watching Netflix. You don't have your cell phone on your clock radio beside you. Your cell phone should be at the very least in sleep mode and as far away from you as possible. People go, well, what if there's an emergency and a family member calls? How many times has that happened in your lifetime? Sleep in the bedroom is for 2 reasons. The bedroom is for 2 reasons only. Sleep, and you can guess what the other reason is. And why you need adequate sleep is because your brain detoxifies while you are sleeping. So if you're not getting adequate sleep, you're accumulating those toxins in your brain. And, you know, which I can touch on dementia, same thing. It's the toxic buildup. In cancer, in most diseases, it's a positive mindset. In dementia, it has been shown having meaning and purpose in your life. When people retire and get older, I live in Canada where it's cold in the wintertime, so people go south to Florida, and do what? You know, being an entrepreneur for so many years, I don't have that mindset of a retired person who's now going to Florida to do what? The blue zones that boast the healthiest, longest living individuals on the planet, well into their 80s and 90s, have meaning and purpose in their life. They're part of the community. They keep their brains sharp. They grow their own food. So, you know, there's just so many things, so many lifestyle factors that play a part in how healthy we will be. And so my other third gift that I have to you is it's 2 days late because it's a Valentine's gift to yourself from Dr. Sue Mortner, who belongs to a group called Year of Miracles. And it's just an 8-minute video where it really empowers you to really love and connect with yourself. And so I share it with with everybody I meet, because everybody can use a little bit of love. One of the other key things that I stress wholeheartedly with, if I'm not remembered for cancer prevention or health, there's one thing I definitely want to be remembered for, is I love to put a chuckle into people's heart. And that, by that I mean, I approach strangers at the dog park, at the grocery store, at the ATM machine, and I say, can I put a chuckle in your heart? And by that I mean, can I share a joke? Why a joke? Behind every face there is a story. Maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe somebody died from cancer. Maybe you lost your job. So for 2 minutes, I have a captive audience. They laugh out loud. It feeds my soul. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. It raises endorphins and the feel-good hormones in your brain. And laughter has been shown to promote longevity. And so I share this joke, and the person will think about it all day, and they'll go home and share with their wife or a loved one and say, you know what, I met this crazy woman at the dog park. She shared a joke, but it was really good. So having said that, I would like to put a chuckle in your heart. Lady rushes out of the drugstore and she realizes that she's locked the keys to her car, and she's just frantic. She clasps her hands together, looks up to the skies, and she says, God, please send me somebody that unlocked the keys to my car. 1 minute, a biker appears. Tattoos, skull cap, big beer belly. Hey, lady, you need some help? Oh, yes, sir. I have these meds for my daughter. She's sick at home, and I locked the keys to my car. Can you open it? Within 3 minutes, the car is opened. She clasps her hands one more time, looks up to the skies, and she says, God, please send me somebody that unlocked the keys to my car. And thank you so much for this beautiful man who has done so. The biker overhears. He says, lady, I'm not a nice guy. I just got out of prison for car theft. With clasped hands one more time, she looks up to the skies and she says, God, thank you so much for sending me a professional. So please, mindset is really important. Have gratitude in your heart and share with everyone you love.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, absolutely fantastic, Alexi. And I know there'll be questions for you when we open up for Q&A. I've already seen a couple in the chat. So absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm just loving this evening already. And as I introduce you to our next speaker, bear with me one moment. As I introduce you to our next speaker, who's going to be Lana Walsh from Alberta, Canada. Let me spotlight Lana. Lana, rather. There we go. Oh, I'm not able to right now. Okay. Right, so Lana Walsh is a sleep and insomnia expert. For 30 years, she coped with daily exhaustion, where she would lie awake most nights, frustrated that she couldn't sleep. She'd wake up so exhausted that she would have to convince herself to get up and live her life. During this time, she tried everything from pharmaceuticals to banana peel tea. Not heard of that one before, Lana. Since she finally found a specific process of behavior changes that completely transformed her life. Now she is passionate about sharing how this simple process conquers insomnia, so you can wake up rested and motivated to live your dream life. Right, Lana, let me remove the spotlight from me. And where are you? There you are. Wonderful. Over to you.
Okay, sorry, I just had a small challenge here with getting my menu. Oh, am I unmuted? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. I was having a challenge there with my getting my stuff right. Okay, so thank you so much for that introduction. I am going to ask some questions. I have my chat open, so please feel free to pop in the chat answers if you feel inspired. So I'm going to start with asking you if you've ever done this at night. Have you ever done the math, waking up in the middle of the night and going, if I go to sleep right now, I will have 5 hours and 30 minutes left to sleep. And then you toss and turn, you look at the clock and you go, if I go to sleep right now, I'll have 4 hours and 47 minutes left to sleep, right? It is so frustrating to wake up in the night and have to figure out how much more time do I get to sleep? And that's what I did for many, many years. I started having trouble sleeping when I was 12, 13 years old. I would toss and turn so much at night that I would wake up with the blankets and my pajamas wrapped so tight around me. It was like a boa constrictor was squeezing the life out of me. And I'd have to get out of bed and rearrange everything so I could go back to sleep. And to this day, I wake up in the night when I roll over to make sure nothing gets wrapped around me because it bothers me so much. And my parents thought, just a typical teenager, right? Teenagers get into all the bad habits that kill sleep. They stay up too late. They sleep in on the weekends. They start drinking alcohol and coffee, maybe experimenting with drugs. They're grumpy and irritable. So it's just normal teenager stuff. And I would tell people all the time, I'm tired. But nobody listened to me because of this. Because being an adult is about being tired and telling people you're tired and listening to other people tell you how tired they are, right? How many of you have thought, said, or heard someone else say in the last week, I'm tired, right? It just is so common. We have this idea that being an adult means being tired. And I saw somebody put in the chat about, I have small kids and I just can't sleep. And yeah, that's a big part of it. I hear that all the time. You get kids keeping you awake at night and then you can't yourself sleep. But the thing is, this chronic tiredness that we all feel isn't normal. When I'm speaking in a group where I can see everybody, I would ask them to raise their hand if they thought they were a good sleeper. And if you feel like it, please pop in the chat if you think you're a good sleeper. Say me or yes. You don't have trouble going to sleep. You don't have trouble staying asleep. Or if you do wake up in the night, you go back to sleep easily. You wake up feeling rested. I ask those same people to raise their hand if they also say, I'm tired regularly, like on a weekly basis. And the answer is no. Most times, Ruth, you're a good sleeper. That's awesome. Good for you. Great sleeper. Yeah, it's fantastic. If you're a good sleeper, I am so happy for you, especially now that I know how good it is to sleep well. It is so important, as we've heard already, how important sleep is. But the thing is, being tired, like so many of us, is not normal. So I want to ask you, odd times that it eludes me. Yeah. Sorry, something in my ear. Yeah, it's common.
Okay, so does the Apollo's nice for your phone then, yeah?
Sorry, can everybody mute themselves?
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, so I want to ask you now, what are some of the things you feel if you've had a bad night's sleep? And maybe you're a good sleeper and you had a bad night because you had a sick kid at home, or maybe the neighbor's house was on fire overnight and there was sirens and stuff going. Whatever the reason why you didn't have a good night's sleep, what are some of the things you feel the next day? And these are a lot of the responses I get from people I talk to. Unmotivated, unproductive, can't concentrate, too tired to care about important things. That was me. At the end, the last few years of my insomnia, as Carol said in my bio, I had to literally talk myself out of bed because I was so exhausted. I just didn't even care. I had to get up because I had a job and I needed the job so I could make money, so I could pay my bills. And we have all of these bad feelings about our sleep. We feel chronically tired all the time, and we do nothing about it because we feel like this is normal. Now, I'm an insomnia expert, and experts believe that 1 in 3 people have insomnia, but it's completely misunderstood and underdiagnosed. In fact, I was never formally diagnosed, despite the fact that for 10 years, I was seeing a doctor every 6 to 12 months to get a refill of my prescription medication. 10 years. And in those 10 years, not one of those doctors asked me about my sleep. They just kept writing me a script after script after script. So what is insomnia? It's simply taking an hour or more to go to sleep or to go back to sleep after waking during the night. And you can have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep or both at the same time. And it can come and go depending on what's happening in your life. And it doesn't mean you have a problem with insomnia. So based on that definition, who here has had a night of insomnia? Right? Probably everybody, because stress is the #1 reason people can't sleep. And it's completely normal when we've been under stress to not sleep. However, when it becomes chronic, 3 or more times a week, it's been going on for more than 3 months, that's a chronic case of insomnia. And when it starts to affect your day-to-day life, like you feel irritable, anxious, stressed, unmotivated, unproductive, all of those things, that's really when it's time to say, hey, maybe I shouldn't put up with this. Maybe I should do something about it. And so the first step to conquering chronic tiredness and sleeping better is to admit when you have a problem. Just like anything, and let's give up this membership to the Chronic Tiredness Club. Let's look for answers, because the truth is, experts have diagnosed over 80 different sleep disorders, and insomnia is the biggest one of all of them. Okay, so who's done this? Middle of the night, you're replaying a conversation from 5 years ago. Just me? I've done this before, right? Like I said before, stress and anxiety are the main reasons people can't sleep. And even good sleepers will have trouble sleeping on stressful days. So what is the reason why some people can have a night of insomnia and still be a good sleeper, but some people develop chronic insomnia and have long-term problems? Well, part of it is this stress and anxiety that sabotages our sleep, right? We talked about how the stress creates a cortisol and adrenaline rush, right? Which prepares us for action. It was meant to keep us safe from a physical threat. It increases brainwaves, so that problem you have at night with your head spinning out, that's part of that stress response, increasing your brainwaves so you can think quickly. Am I going left or right? Am I staying or am I fleeing? It increases muscle tension, heart rate, and blood pressure so you can move quickly with agility and strength. Now, when you have a physical stress, you survive the near-miss car accident, the brain goes, okay, I'm safe. The threat is gone. But when it's a psychological stressor, 99.9% of our stress today, getting cut off in traffic, a bad performance review, reading something scary on social media, the fight you had with your partner, those psychological stressors, those are the ones that don't automatically go away. So that waking up in the middle of the night and thinking about something from 5 years ago, that was a stressor that never went away. The cortisol level stays elevated, it reduces your deep sleep, makes it more difficult for you to sleep. So when we start to have trouble sleeping because of typically something stressful, then we start to get anxious and frustrated about our sleep. And we start to question, like, am I ever going to sleep again? Or I'm so tired tonight, I have to be able to sleep. And this leads us to have these negative thoughts and beliefs about sleep, which research shows when you have negative thoughts and beliefs about sleep, you're more likely to continue to have difficulty sleeping. So do you feel like any of these statements feel true to you? I had a bad night's sleep, so I'm going to be completely useless today. If I continue to sleep poorly, I'm going to have all of these health problems and I'm going to gain weight. If I just catch up on my sleep this weekend, maybe I will feel better. So now we have stress and anxiety that's keeping us from sleeping, which is making us anxious about our sleep specifically. And then we start to have negative and incorrect thoughts. And then because we're exhausted from not sleeping, we start to engage in behaviors to help us survive. But these behaviors can actually maintain and sustain your insomnia. And the more we engage in them, the more they become automatic without us even thinking about that we're doing them. So we get into this habit loop where we have a cue and a craving which happen almost simultaneously. We engage in the response, the behavior to help us, which gives us the reward of feeling better. So for example, we're tired and we want a nap, but we can't because we're at work. So we grab that cup of coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it makes us feel better. But coffee can actually take up to 12 hours to metabolize. So then it affects your sleep that night. And then you grab the coffee again the next day. So do any of you have an automatic response 2, 3 in the afternoon when you start to get that sluggishness that you automatically grab the coffee, the pop, the energy drink to help you? So here's my advice. Instead of grabbing that cup of coffee, just getting 10 to 15 minutes of physical activity, a walk around the block. Research shows boosts your energy by just as much as a cup of coffee. And here's another example I'll give you. You're not sleeping at night. The alarm goes off in the morning. You're like, I'm just going to stay in bed, sleep in a little bit, makes you feel better. But this disrupts your circadian rhythm, which runs on a 24-hour clock. So for however long you sleep in the morning is the same amount of time it's going to take you longer to be ready for bed that night. It pushes your clock back. And this is the same effect as jet lag or the time change. If you find yourself taking a few extra days to get through the time change, this is what's happening. It's your circadian rhythm gets out of balance. And this is one of the biggest mistakes I see my clients make, the social jet lag, it's called, when we sleep in on the weekends. And then it comes Sunday night, we have more difficulty going to sleep. And then that makes our Monday mornings worse. And then we struggle for a couple of days until we get ourselves back on track. So one of the most important things you can do is stick to your morning schedule every day of the week. So step 2 to getting better sleep is to change this mindset that you have about your sleep. Change these habits into better, healthy habits so that you can start to engage in proper sleep behavior to get better sleep. I love this. I love my date with my bed. So we have beliefs in this mindset that's hindering our sleep, and we've engaged in these bad habits. So what do we do so we can sleep soundly every night? Well, what have you tried? These old ideas for getting better sleep, like sleep hygiene, cool, dark room, remove your devices, remove distractions, eat right, exercise. These are all really good and should be followed hygiene routines that help you get a better quality of sleep when you're a good sleeper. There's melatonin, magnesium, tryptophan. So many MLM companies have a sleep supplement of some kind. And of course, there's prescription medications. These are all things that are shared readily everywhere on how to get a better night's sleep and how to treat insomnia. The problem is most of these things look at insomnia as a physiological problem, when in fact, the root cause of insomnia is psychological. So over time, this inability to sleep teaches our subconscious brain, just like Pavlov's dog, that the bed and nighttime is not for sleeping. It's for thinking, It's for doing that to-do list. It's for creating things. I don't know how many of you are like me, but I can write the best speeches at 3 a.m. You know, it's for doing all of those things that your brain does or you physically do at night. And this is the impetus behind that. What Alexi shared earlier, only use the bed for sex and sleep, because you don't want your brain associating the bed with anything other than those two things. But it's more involved than just stopping the bad habits and changing your mindset. We also need to start reprogramming the subconscious brain to remember that the bed is where we sleep. And we do that with a process that was developed at Harvard University and is considered the gold standard in treating insomnia. And it addresses this root cause, this psychological behavior, by using sleep education, understanding the physiology of sleep, how it works, tactical sleep strategies, what to do at night when you can't sleep and how to sleep, and then stress reduction and relaxation techniques to help you go to sleep when you struggle. And this step-by-step process over the course of 6 to 8 weeks creates new belief patterns, behaviors that lead to new habits that become automatic so you can consistently sleep through the night. The important thing to understand is sleep is a skill that can be relearned unless you have an excuse for not getting help. And I hear a lot of excuses from people of why they don't do anything about it. And a lot of them come with the, I don't know what to do. And that is the purpose of this presentation today, is that there is something that has been fully researched since the 90s that has been extremely effective in helping this situation. And so step 3 is to stop letting these excuses keep you from getting the help you need. Now, whether you think you have insomnia or not, like I said earlier, experts have diagnosed over 80 different sleep disorders. So if you're feeling chronically tired and you think you have insomnia, there is a solution. If you think it might be something else, I encourage you to go and seek help, because you don't need to live with that chronic tiredness. And so today I invite you, if you think you might have insomnia and you think that you're interested in learning more about the specific habits and behaviors that are causing your struggles to sleep, and you're looking for some strategies, I would love to connect with you and help you out. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to just pop a link in the chat here. Stop share. So that link in the chat is all my connection information, as well as you can book a session with me from there. You can free download a whole bunch of things that I have available. So please reach out to me. I look forward to connecting with you. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lana. Yes, there will be some comment coming back when we open up for Q&A. I can relate to some of what you were saying personally. So yes, I'm looking forward to that. So Ruth Coghill, our final speaker for the evening. Ruth is married to Bob, and they have 4 married children and 13 grandchildren. Woo! Gathering the whole Coghill clan 3 or 4 times a year at their Kawartha Lake home is one of her great delights. Ruth is a speaker, podcaster, and founder of Words to Inspire, lifelong empowerment from God's Word. Her mission is to encourage, empower, and motivate women. Oh, let me spotlight you, Ruth. Sorry, I didn't realize you were spotlighted. There we go. So I'll start that second bit again. Ruth is a speaker, podcaster, and founder of Words to Inspire. Lifelong empowerment from God's word. Her mission is to encourage, empower, and motivate women to live up to their God-given potential. She has authored 5 books. Her latest book, Unborn, Untold, True Stories of Abortion and God's Healing Grace. What a tremendous honor for Unborn, Untold to be the recipient of the Word Guild 2020 Deborah Feguth Social Justice Award. You can learn more about Ruth at her website, www.wordstoinspire.ca. Right, I'm not going to say any more. Ruth, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Carol, and thank you so much for the privilege. Wow, it's been so exciting to listen to the 3 gals that went before me. You know, maybe you're all tired now. You're going to go to your bed to get a little bit of that sleep. So I'm the last one. I guess I better start my stopwatch here so I don't go into your bedtime. It's only afternoon here. But what came to my mind as I was listening to the 3 great speakers before me is how much women have in common. Just so many things, and it's so warm, it's so delightful, it's so encouraging to be together and to just share our hearts and to share those things that have worked for us in our lives. What has helped us to overcome sleep? What has helped us in our journey with cancer or sickness? And so thank you so much for this opportunity. And I want to thank the 3 gals before me. Wow, I'm just delighted to hear from you. So now it's my turn, and I'm going to take full advantage of the opportunity to share a little bit with you, perhaps a little bit more vulnerable than some of you, but I have a question. How many of you have ever felt like a failure? I mean, a real failure. A failure that necessitates you leaving and taking a leave of absence from your career. Mine was teaching. A failure that led to a deep depression. Well, that's me. And that's my introduction. And see, that's another thing that we have in common. Most of us, or many of us, have experienced that sense of failure. I won't go into the details of why my failure came about, but I'll tell you that it was pretty devastating. I didn't want to get up to go to my job in the morning. The children that had looked like little angels the day before, all of a sudden, over the next few weeks, they looked like monsters. It felt like climbing a mountain to teach them. And then at the end of the day, I fell into the valley afterwards. So I sought help. I sought many kinds of help. And wow, it's been good to hear from you today about tonight, I guess, the holistic approaches to many of our problems. But I did get to go back to the classroom. But over the years, I wanted to process exactly what happened. Why did I fall into this deep depression that really hindered me from accomplishing some of the goals that I had set out to accomplish? I'd wanted to get my degree in music. We come from a musical family, and I was enrolled in music program at the university. I wanted to finalize my other degrees. And now I was faced with this change in my life. But I learned so much. I travel a lot around the world, and everywhere I go, I've discovered that many women feel that they are not worth it at times, that they're not good enough. You know, when I'm as good a speaker as that other gal, then I'll get on the platform. That kind of an attitude. But over the years, I did discover some truths about myself and about why I had that very difficult time in my life, early in my marriage, in fact. One of the challenges for me was that I came from a home where 2 of my family members suffered from mental illness. Indeed, they had spent time in mental hospitals, both my father and my sister. And so I had this nagging wonder if I was going to be going down that path as well. But here's what happened. Not unlike 2 of our speakers today, I came to the place while I was looking at a help for my depression, I came to the place where I did not want to go on anymore the way I had been. I had been to a psychiatrist in Toronto. I had tried medication and tried many, many things, but nothing was working. And I remember clearly, just like one of our speakers, our first, Madlena, going to my knees, actually right down on my face one day and saying, God, if you'll just get me out of this depression, I'll do anything you want me to do, anything. Little did I know what I was really committing to. It was different for me. It was not instant, but something happened that day. When I got up, I realized that there were things that I had been taught as a young child that I was not even doing to nourish my spirit and my soul. My parents were wonderful parents, even though we struggled much in our home with my aforementioned mental illness. But they taught me right from wrong. They taught me good work ethics. They taught me all those things. But my mother said there was a foundation for that teaching. She said it came in ancient manuscripts known as scriptures, or some people call it the Bible. Well, you know, as a young girl, that sounded good and I wanted to believe it all, but most of us have to find that journey on our own and discover for ourselves what others have learned from their personal journey. So I began my journey. I began to look into some of these teachings that were given by prophets and priests and kings. And interestingly enough, in my journey, I discovered that in not too far from the time I was born, in the late 40s, that there was some manuscripts that were discovered in caves in the Middle East. They were discovered when a young shepherd boy threw a stone into a cave to discover if there were any animals in there before he went inside to take his sheep in for shelter from the sun. When he did, he heard some clattering, and it was clay pots. And perhaps they were something like this. This is kind of a replica of one of the pots. And inside those clay pots, there were manuscripts that were thousands of years old. And those manuscripts held the ancient writings of those kings that I mentioned, those priests and those prophets. But they hadn't come directly from those men. They had come through those men directly from God. And I was experiencing, as I began to look into these scriptures, that they did hold some answers for me. So what happened with me is that I processed over the next few years what were the things that were impacting me. And I came to understand that there were three very distinct lies that I was believing about myself. Lies that were taking me down a slimy pit that, you know, when it's slimy on all the sides, when you try to get out, you just slip further down. And that was my experience. I lived in the northern part of Canada at that time, and the blue sky didn't even seem that blue to me. Everybody around seemed so happy, but not me. I had a great husband. We hadn't been married all that long. I had no reason for this except these three lies that I was believing. So I'll share those with you right now. The first lie was that lie that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough, that the sins of my youth kept me from a close relationship with God. That was a lie, a big lie, and it was holding me captive. The second lie was about God, and really all the lies are about God, because I kept hearing about God, but my view of him was really distorted. The second lie about God was that he was very unfair. My dad was a great man, and he was the one that taught me very much the right from wrong. I remember as a little girl how when we got wounded out in our little island home, and we would have a big gash in our arms, we never ran to the hospital for stitches. My dad just knew how to put that little bit of pressure on those wounds and apply a little Watkins ointment and a good strong Band-Aid, and you know, they healed. And I learned so much from him. I learned how to serve others through my dad. But when I was 9 years old, my dad was taken off to a mental hospital in a police car. God was not fair. How could I trust him? And the third lie that I believed was that I could do anything I set my mind to if I just tried hard enough. Now, I know that there's that inner spirit that has a drive. And I certainly was born with that inner drive, that energetic spirit, which was really part of my father's personality. And but God has told me through these manuscripts, through this word that he has left for me, that I can do it better if I allow my Creator to walk alongside me in close communion with him and guide me all the way. Some of the experiences in my life that impacted me greatly were those experiences visiting the mental hospital. And as a 16-year-old, I went from high school once or twice a month and drove to Toronto with my mom, visiting one family member in one mental hospital and the other family member in another. And so I had a great deal of processing to do. And yet, over the years, I've discovered that when I allow the Creator of my life, the one that knit me together in my mother's womb, the one that knew the number of days of my life before I was even born, who knew the strengths and weaknesses that I would have, when I allow him to be part of my life and to follow his guidebook, that I too can have a full, complete life. Because every one of those lies that I believed that were keeping me in bondage, every one of them was covered in the scriptures. Because I can do all things through him who created me and who strengthens me. And God is not unfair. We live in a world that's very broken. And so I discovered so many truths. So as a leader in a mission-minded culture that I live in and work in, I have discovered that there are some leadership principles that have followed me down my life. And I found them mostly in Robert Clinton's book, Keys to Leadership, or The Making of a Leader, pardon me. I've got so many of those leadership books around, but it's a great one. And he talks about all the different stages of our lives, how as leaders, we will go through times of rejection. As an author, I have lots of rejections and periods of rejection of what we believe. And we're going to go through periods of time like that. That's one season that we often go through. Another season that as leaders we will go through is a season of loneliness, a season where it seems that our leadership is maybe not functioning the way we want, or perhaps it is just that time that we are to go into the solitude where we can learn much about ourselves and much about the beautiful world in which we live. Then there are seasons of loss. The season of losing my mom when my baby was just 3 months old. It was a tremendous loss. And that the loss of relationship with my family member that I loved dearly and whose relationship was very close prior to the mental illness. It was a season of loss. And so we have all these seasons in our lives. And then we have seasons of growth where we're feeling that we're really accomplishing what God's potential for us has been. And then Robert Clinton says it really well. He says there comes a time when there's convergence in all of those seasons of our lives. And I've left out a couple for obvious reasons. When all of those things come together into a convergence, and I'm living in convergence right now, and I am loving it. What do I mean by that? Well, all of the challenges, all of the pain, all of the loss, all of the rejection, it's all come to a place where now I understand that there was a bigger purpose in it. Because now I have a heart for the broken. I have a heart to come alongside those that are hurting. That came from watching my family. And I won't have to go into all of those other things, but the books, 3 of the 4 books that I've published, they are right in line with my story. And I tell my story and how I discovered that I totally am a woman of worth. And I share that with women around the world. There are many translations of woman of worth. I don't get my worth from my financial status. Oh, that's nice to have. but I get my worth because I've been stamped in the image of the creator of the universe. That gives me value. And it's different. It's the same image, but different potential for each one of us. And then the next one, my father taught me that memorizing was great for the brain. And so prior to 9 years old, I had several years where he would memorize from God's word, something like, the Lord is my shepherd, something like that. And then he would just keep reciting that. And as little girls, there are 4 of us, we would just repeat after him. And he gave me the love for memorizing. So I memorized a lot. One day when I was teaching a class, some girls come up to me and they said, would you teach us how to memorize? And I looked at them and I said, you just do it. But I realized that they were not as fortunate as me to have somebody that was really promoting it at a young age. And so the second book is wrapped around that story in my life. And it's called Woman of the Word. And it's all about memorizing and how to memorize in a group. And then there were other things that I began to discover about biblical Ruth, who is, as you might know or not know, I lost my little earphone there. And a woman that came from a very heathenistic society where they offered their babies and they sacrificed them to the god Molech. I learned about her, and I learned that even though our past can be difficult, it might even be quite wrong, it does not dictate our future. And I learned from her that you can walk out of your past into a wonderful future with hope and inspiration and even new life. And so I put those concepts in a book called Woman of Wisdom. And it's all wrapped around that biblical story of a wonderful woman who did not let her past dictate her future, but went on to become one of the stalwarts in the scriptures. And I'm just finalizing, actually this morning, I was just working on finishing the last book in the series, and it's called Woman of Worship. And we all worship something. And I've discovered that my life of worship with the creator of the universe has given me a life that is full and rich. I also just finished reading Phil Stacey's book called Made to Worship. I don't know, some of you may have remembered him, but he was an American Idol contestant and winner back in sometime in 2007 and 8, in that range. And so he left his job, a part-time job as a worship leader in a church, and he went on the road with American Idol. And he had 2 children at the time, one born while he was on the road. And his story ends by saying, it was wonderful to be famous. It was a wonderful experience. It was a lifelong goal. But at the end of it all, he still felt empty. And so he came back to that place of worshiping the Lord, the King of the universe, and found fulfillment. And so that's what I have for you today. I have my story, and each of us has a story. I love to tell my story because it's a story of brokenness, of pain, but of a wonderful one that wants more for me than that. He wants me to move on to my full potential, and I am enjoying it right now.
Fabulous, Ruth. Thank you. Oh, special gift. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
now our speakers have spoken. I am going to open up the floor for questions. So don't be shy, unmute your mics or raise your digital hand. Yeah. All right. Now, Alexi. Well, I'll start if no one else is at the moment. Alexi, I know that Zena had put something in the chat before she had to jump off, but what I did do was copied your links and sent it to her in our WhatsApp chat. Let's see if I can find her.
Yeah, I couldn't post in the chat. When I did, I got cut off, and I tried it again. So I did
Yeah.
email, but I didn't email you those links though.
Yeah, some of them are in the chat, and the ones that you've emailed, I've reposted in this chat here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. Let's see. Zena. Not that one. Can you ever truly remove trauma, or do you learn from it and deal with it better?
Is that a question to me or to everybody?
No, that was a question for you.
Yes, I believe you can. It takes some work. Depends how open you are. It could be painful, but it's all baby steps. You don't just delve into the worst possible thing. You sort of do it gradually, because I've seen really good success with it. It can be done.
Excellent. And you know, you're talking about toxicity, that we are prone to toxins. I remember sending to my water utility supplier, asking for, under freedom of information here, which we have in the UK, you are allowed to ask for information pertaining to your account. And I asked them to send me a list of what was actually in my water. And it came back with a spreadsheet, 6 pages, double-sided, and glyphosate was one of those things that was in the water, as well as arsenic and some of the other stuff, cadmium, etc. It's all around us. We breathe it, we wash in it, we clean in it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, in Canada, you can get a report from the city to have your water tested, but they do not test for pharmaceuticals. So that has to go to a specialized lab.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Any other questions before I take over? Lana, I have actually used magnesium on my husband when he's not been able to sleep. Magnesium spray, rubbing on the soles of his feet. Now we use something else. So yeah, it's amazing. And I also find when my brain is overactive, not that I'm stressed, but I could have been, like, for instance, tonight, I could be reliving it as I lie down to sleep. And it could be it could be preventing me from actually having that total relaxed mind and brain. And that's when I find I can't sleep, when my mind is overactive. It's not because I'm unhappy, I just can't switch off. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I think 99.9% of my clients tell me they can't shut down their brain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the advice for that is to do something relaxing that requires you to use enough brain power to stop thinking, but not so much brain power that you want to keep thinking about what it is you're doing. So I recommend some sort of, novel that's like a fast-paced novel, not fast-paced. Wrong. Don't read fast-paced. Don't read James Patterson. Nobody read James Patterson at night. 1-page chapters, you can't put those books down. It has to be something that you want to think about enough that it gets your brain to focus, but you don't want to be reading like a biography of somebody that you are so engaged with that you want to just keep reading and reading and reading.
Yeah.
So you want to do something relaxing for 20 to 30 minutes and then try to sleep. Or if you start to nod off, then just close the book and go to sleep. So that's one of the processes to shutting down your brain. Of course, there's meditation or, vision work or something along those lines that can also help. So that's what I recommend to people, but don't let yourself stop. If you let your brain continue to run and you toss and turn, you actually bring on that stress response.
Yeah. Because
you start to get frustrated and anxious about it.
And don't look at the clock.
And don't look at the clock. Yeah, if you can avoid looking at the clock, yeah.
Yeah, I've made that mistake before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be shy. what I sometimes do is read my Bible before bed. I read it in the morning, but I read it at night as well sometimes, unless I'm like, so yeah.
I don't have a question, but I really enjoyed this evening and the depths of and love of every speaker and the content. It was nourishing, eye-opening, everything together. Very beautiful. I have seldom been in a event with such a beautiful and deep parts to say, but just beautiful, like a sound bath.
Oh, that's wonderful of you to say so. Thank you so very much. And do come again, because these events are, we've got this event, which is the third Thursday of every month. And then on the first Thursday of every month, we have the mixed event with male and female speakers who share from their hearts as well. So yes, please do keep coming. They are incredible. They really are. And each person has a story, or many stories in our lifetime. And each one is unique to us. Some may go through something similar, but how we respond to it will always be different individually. So yes, Lisa Lotta.
Hello.
Hi.
I enjoyed all of the talks and learned something. I was interested about the switching off the mobiles and things and keeping them away, because they've got some sort of factor in it, haven't they? The geopathic stress factor. And it's all hidden and invisible. That's why, the person said that she wasn't even aware of all these things till she started reading up on it. So, yeah, it's very good. It affects all sorts of illnesses, actually, apart from cancer. But I was also thinking insomnia, it probably affects that as well. The Wi-Fi, switching it off can help. I find I sleep better if I remember to do that and turn off all the electrics around me as far as I can. Peacefully. And then I also loved Ruth's talk, because I'm a spiritual person and I do respect the Bible, and it's helped me through difficult times. But then at times, there was a time when it sort of also backfired on me, because, it makes you a very gentle and soft and forgiving person, that sometimes it can backfire because you trust everybody, and some people you can't trust. And then, but I've never lost faith in God, and I can understand a little bit of where you came from, but I can't even imagine what you went through when you lost your mother, when your baby was 3 months old. That's when you really need your mother, and how your father suffered with so many mental health issues, and yet, similar thing I think happens to most of us, where we put our trust and we feel it's been betrayed. And we get sort of in a whirlwind and going round and round so fast, you don't know where you are. With the confusion, and then sometimes you don't even understand what's going on. So I got into a real downhill slide. But yeah, thankfully, over the worst and on the other side, and I've learned to be more positive, going inside of me more and finding the inner person, the inner being. And that was a brilliant revelation. And then I started aligning myself. And now I have more pleasure in reading the Bible and speaking to God, because I understand more than I did about it, about spiritual things, before I got into that mess, when I was just relying on the Bible. But now I've learned to new things, new lessons, and now it's enhanced where, what I used to believe in. And so to return to that place now with a more in-depth knowledge has been remarkable turnaround, and feel very, chuffed at myself. So, yeah, to all of you could, yeah.
Could I just answer that one comment you made? Is it Teresa that is just speaking there?
Lana.
Oh, okay. I didn't see any lips moving. I was looking for lips moving. I just wanted to address the idea of when my mother died when my little girl, she was 3 months old, and it was very sudden. It was night when we were together, and she was gone in the morning. But here is something that I was just writing about this morning. So I just wanted to share with you, because there's beauty that comes out of difficult times. And that's what I've learned over the years. But because Heather was our only daughter with 4 children, the other 3 sons, my mom had a special place in her heart for Heather. And so I often left her when I could run and do errands. My mom had a favorite fragrance. It was Yardley Roses. And I always thought it was kind of pungent, actually. It wasn't my favorite for sure, but it was hers. And so Heather, I'd leave Heather for a couple of hours and I'd come back, and, I could smell this. You go in the house and you'd smell roses. But what was very interesting is when I'd take Heather home and I'd take that blanket off, and that blanket would be filled with that fragrance, and her clothes would be filled. And, I'd strip her down for her bath, and I could still smell the hint that had been absorbed by her skin, the hint of the roses. And so I've learned from that experience that it's very important who you hang around with, because their smell will rub off.
Oh, wonderful lesson, isn't it? Yeah, but sometimes, you don't have a choice. I mean, but that was your daughter, and your mother. Sometimes it's relatives. Do you really have a choice? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And sometimes you need to wisen up, like women of wisdom. You need to cultivate that as well, which life's experience teaches us. From, like you said, sometimes the difficult things teach us some important lessons that we need to enhance our life, and not go through it without that lesson would be, in a way, denying us of the beautiful dimensions that it's now throwing into our life. Like a diamond has to be cut and cut and cut to show the brilliance, and it goes through a process, and that's what I think we can liken our journey to shine brilliantly. Sometimes we have to undergo all these painful lessons.
Thank you. Any more for any more? Don't be shy. A question for Madlena. How is it going with your health and well-being expert for men? How has that taken off?
I love it. I just love it because there are a lot of men who are health and well-being experts for men. And I dare to do it as a woman. And it's a very beautiful perspective of we women, we are very naturally loving and caring and nourishing. And it's beautiful to be able to invite men to reconnect with their hearts, with their emotions, because a man has been told from an early age, don't cry, you have to be strong, man, don't cry. And do you know what I found in my life? That the strongest men are those who cry in front of the whole world, because they stand firmly behind the fact that they are simply human beings. And when I, as a prime minister of whatever country, lose a mother, a father, and I'm at the funeral, why would I pretend that I'm strong?
Yeah.
Show the whole world your humanness. Cry. And even tears are not always a sign of sadness. As, I was taking care of my grandson. He was 4 years young, and the message came that his sister was born. And I started crying, and he said, "Why are you so sad, Grandma?" And I said, "No, these are tears of joy." And he told me a couple of weeks after that, "You know what? I'm crying today, but not because I'm sad, but because I'm joyful." So this is something we are allowed to show to male and female children, and later to men.
Yeah.
Man is strong when he doesn't cry. I oppose that 100%.
And roughly, what's the age group of the men who you work with?
I personally prefer to work with men who are older than 40, because this is the age when they have achieved certain level of success. But interestingly enough, young men approach me as well, because their idea of this millennial generation of success is different. So I'm very surprised when young men approach me, because my own son is 28, so I can speak out of my own experience as a mother. So it's very different.
Awesome.
And the prerequisite is for someone to work with me is to be ready for a change. If someone comes and says, "I'm not willing and ready to make any changes in my life," then I have to say, "And I'm sorry, it's not going to work between both of us."
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you work with men who are shy, who reveal their feelings for someone?
Absolutely. And men who are very, very introverts, because let me share with you very briefly. I was working with a 52 years man, and within our session, so to say, he started crying. And then he shared with me that this was the first time in his life at the age of 52 that he gave himself the permission to cry.
Mm.
And this was a significant moment in his life. To answer your question, I love working with men who are shy and introverts, because at the end of the day, the heart of every man is longing for love, appreciation, praise. This is what every man desires, like every human being on this planet. So I love working with shy men, to answer your question.
Why do some men not want to engage in a relationship or stay bachelor?
Because of different reasons. Reason number one is mostly, I don't want to generalize, but mostly this is distorted relationship to their own mother. So he doesn't know how to interact with a female.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other reason, which is also very important, is a low self-esteem. I'm not handsome enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm fat, and so on. And this lack of self-esteem hinders this man to, everything starts with self-love. I cannot love someone else if I'm not loving myself. And coming from a place of overflowing cup of self-love enables me to communicate with a woman lovingly. And yet someone has to encourage me, to show me how to talk to a woman. Many men don't know how to do it because they didn't have role models. Either the father was not present at all because he was working excessively to bring bread on the table, or he was present, but he was emotionally not available because no one showed his father how to be emotionally available. And this is our chance to invite men to reconnect with their hearts, with their emotions. And the miracles which happen after this men open their hearts, they are just heart-touching.
What sort of experience have you had of heart-touching moments?
It starts with family's life completely changed, connection to a partner, connection to children, healing the connection with a mother he hasn't spoken to for years because of X, Y, Z. When you invite a man to apply the power of forgiveness, then everyone around him, in the closest extended family, on workplace, in a community, in a neighborhood, everyone benefits of that. Every soul you touch. Alexis said it beautifully. I want to touch the heart of one person per day to make this person laugh. Imagine what happens when a man spreads love naturally. Everyone feels it. Statistics show, for example, it's very impressive, that when you are here in a radius of 8 meters, your heart energy impacts every person in this 8 meters. Can you imagine? What an impact you have at your working place. If you're a teacher and you're standing in front of 20, 25 children, they're not more than 8 meters away from you. They feel the energy of your heart. They feel your love. They feel your devotion. Even if you're not speaking it with words, they feel it between the lines. And so we have to be aware of the impact we have on people when we let love guide us. And I feel in my heart that what the world needs right now is love. Unconditional love. I'm not talking only about romantic love. Unconditional love. Because at the end,
do you mean forgiveness is part of love?
Absolutely. You cannot forgive if you don't love. This is all, and it's my humble opinion. You may not agree, but when I love, because you're my sister and my brother, because we are all brothers and sisters, we are all one. And we love.
There are some difficult things, though, one cannot forgive, like incest or something like that. It's very hard to forgive, isn't it?
I am not saying it's easy.
It's not easy.
And I wanted to tell you this as you were talking beautifully. If you find yourself in a dead end, look at this beautiful community here, then ask for guidance, ask for assistance. It is okay. We all have done it. We all have had our coaches, mentors, our guides who were holding our hands for a while until we can do it on our own. There is nothing to be ashamed for when you ask for help. This is the strength, to be humble enough to step up and say, I cannot do it on my own. Could you please guide me? Because we know the shortcuts. We've been there, and we will show you the mistakes which we have made so that you don't make these mistakes. This is the purpose of every book, of every life story. Don't go through life alone. Ask for guidance, for help. And forgiveness is the key. Even just inviting you to look at a certain situation from another perspective, understanding where this person was coming from, It took me many years of my life to forgive my father because he never accepted me as a girl. But it took me also many years of my life to understand where he was coming from. He badly wanted to have a son to prove to his family how capable he is. And once I got it, it was not that difficult to forgive him.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Now, can I ask you to save the chat? Alexi, could you explain the different links that are actually in the chat?
The first link is the ACE test, that 10 questions to determine what traumas you experienced between the ages of 3 and 18. Wow. The second link is to book a session for I can walk you through some unwanted emotions that are impacting your future. And then the third link is that self-prayer, that sort of Valentine self-prayer. It's an audio. It's about 7 minutes long.
Awesome. And there was one about heart that you emailed me, which
that's the one. The heart one is the last one. It's the Google Drive.
Excellent. Thank you. And Lana, your links are in the chat. So everyone, please save the chat and have a look, click into the links. Very generous offers here. Lots of information for us to take away and look at. Must make sure I save the chat too. All right, I'm saving now. Excellent. Well, it's been a fantastic evening, and Ritu, thank you for staying with us. Yeah, thank you so much. And we pray that you will feel a lot better and the pain will ease quicker than you expected. So once again, a huge thank you to our speakers on my screen, Lana, Alexi, Ruth, and Madlena. You have been amazing, and thank you for the questions. Thank you, Maylin. Thank you, Lata. Thank you, Sabah. Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Teresa, for joining us. And for those who joined late, if you want the chat, I can send it to you if you've missed some of the links. And yes, it's been fantastic. Thank you for sharing your heart, your expertise. We've all benefited as a result.
Can I just share very quickly?
Of course you can, Alexi.
This is a very short prayer that I picked up from a course I took, and I say it to myself daily many times. Allow my life to be held by a love that is greater than my own thinking. I'm open to that love now. Amen.
Oh, awesome. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Oh, wow. So thank you for joining us. Don't let it be the last time. And also, I've put the Kaushalya UK website link in the chat. If you like what Kaushalya UK stands for, what we're doing, bringing people together, and also on the website, you'll see some of the other projects that Kaushalya UK gets involved in. It's a not-for-profit, as I mentioned. If you would like to make a donation, we leave that to you. But yes, as the, is it the Asda or Tesco saying goes, every little helps, ding, ding. That's in the UK. So yes, there are lots of volunteers. And if any of you would like to run a workshop or be considered for an online workshop sharing your nuggets, then also reach out as well, because we have a volunteer who coordinates workshops too. Yeah. So
great.
And Lata,
thank you for the privilege.
Yes, I will be reaching out to you, Lata.
Okay, thank you. We enjoyed your session. Very enjoyable this evening.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we were honoured. Thank you.
And thank you, Ritu, for creating Kaushalya UK and this platform where we can do just this, be ourselves. So a big hand to Ritu.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. And with that, I am going to say good night enjoy the rest of your day, evening. Yes. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, special. Alrighty.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Speakers, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye. And Teresa, reach out to me if you want to. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. So yes. And Saba, thank you. Bye-bye.